Hello and welcome to Oil Painting for Beginners with Emily Beach. In this video, I'm going to go over materials, brushes, and cleanup. So you can use stretched canvas, but for this first exercise to show you how the different brushes work, I'm just going to use a piece of watercolor paper and I'm going to prime it so that it's not porous. And this is a great surface to use if you want something that's cheap and you want to be able to experiment and practice. So I'm just taping my piece of watercolor paper down with masking tape to my glass surface. And I'm going to use just white acrylic paint to prime the surface and make sure that it's totally coated. You could also use gesso. It's a little bit pricier, but the main thing here to do is to seal the paper so that it doesn't absorb the oil from the oil paints. I'm just using a wide brush, in this case a fan brush, to spread the acrylic paint all over my painting surface, making sure that everything is covered. If you need to add more paint, that's fine. And if you are in a hurry, you could use a hair dryer or a fan to speed up the drying process. Another product that they make is canvas pads of paper, which is paper pads that are already primed. And you can find those in a craft store on Amazon. You can also use canvas panels or stretched canvas. Those are already primed for you, so it allows you to skip this step. I mentioned that I was working on a glass surface, and I created that by taking just a piece of glass and taping it around all of the edges to a white cardboard backing. This allows me to have a clean surface that's easily cleanable, and I can also use it as the palette for painting. I'm now just going to remove the masking tape from the edges so that I can move the paper around, but you are more than welcome to leave it stuck to your surface while you start to paint. I think it's also helpful for me to mention that at any time, if you want to pause the video and work along with the video, you're more than welcome to, or if you just want to watch it straight through and then experiment on your own. This is an inexpensive stretched canvas that I got in a pack of 12. That could also be used. I have odorless paint thinner. I have some walnut oil, or you could use linseed oil. And I have some Damar varnish, and I have some glass containers to mix different mediums in. I'm going to show you how to mix a very easy 1-to-1 ratio painting medium, and that painting medium just needs to have 1 part thinner to 1 part oil, and in this case I'm using walnut oil, but you could use linseed oil. Also using odorless paint thinner. It makes it for a lot more comfortable of an environment, so you're not smelling the mineral spirits. You can also make a painting medium that's a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio of oil, thinner, and Damar varnish. Right here I just have a glass baby food container, and I'm putting 1 part of the thinner in, and then I'm going to put 1 equal part of the walnut oil in to the glass jar, and then I will put the lid back on, shake it a little bit, and then make sure that you label it so that you're not guessing what's in the jar. Always make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area, that you are not eating or smoking around chemicals that are flammable. Also, don't forget to put the lids back on everything, the larger containers that you're using, after you're done using them, to avoid inhaling the fumes from them, but also to avoid spilling them. You can see I spilled some of the turpentine, but this glass surface makes it super easy to just wipe everything up. This one-to-one mixture is great, and it is going to last me a really long time. When you look at buying oil paints, you'll see that some are more expensive than others. The less expensive oil paints are usually not as concentrated with their pigments, and you'll go through them a lot faster than the more expensive ones. So as a beginner, the less expensive ones are fine. But if you're going to be doing a lot of oil painting, then it's a good idea to go with a more expensive brand like Winsor & Newton, because it's going to last you just a very, very long time. For this exercise, I'm just going to need a very, very small amount of oil paint. You can see I'm putting that onto my glass surface, just a little dab of that, because we're going to use the oil painting mixture to thin that out and make the paint spread. So we don't need a whole lot of it. I have a brush set here, and I'm going to go through some of the various brushes and tools and then demonstrate the kinds of strokes that you'll get with them. This flat wash brush is great for getting backgrounds in more quickly and easily, or larger areas of color. So I'm dipping my brush into the painting medium first, and then a little bit of the paint, and you can see how that will glide over the paper. This is pretty thinned out. I didn't get a lot of pigment onto my brush, so just so you can see how thin of a glaze you can create. My next brush is a flat brush, and this is great for techniques of glazing and making straight lines, thin lines, thick lines. Depending on the direction that you are holding the brush, you could get broader strokes or more detailed lines. And it's even good as a wash brush to cover larger areas with color. It's a great idea to practice with different line weights so that you can get a feel for each of your brushes. Avoid painting on your skin because oil paint does contain chemicals that can be absorbed through the skin. When you're done with a brush, you can wipe it off the extra paint with a paper towel before cleaning, and at the end of the video I'll go over cleaning. This next brush is a dagger brush. It's really similar to an angled brush, and it's also known as a striper because it can make really nice stripes. It has long bristles and they go into a sharp angle, and this allows you to get long lines without having to re-dip your brush. So you can see how many of these lines I'm getting without having to reapply more paint. A bright brush looks like a flat brush, but it has shorter bristles. And with the shorter bristles, you're not going to get as much of a flexibility in the line, and it allows you to control your brush strokes, and it allows your brush to hold its shape. You can also use it along other areas to smooth out the edges, sharper edges in your other brush strokes. This next brush is an angled brush, and it is a variation of a flat brush, and the bristles are aligned to create an angle. This helps you get sharp edges. The liner brush is a rounded bristled brush with long thin bristles. It allows it to hold more painting medium and pigment, which allows you to get longer lines in one stroke. These are sometimes also called pinstriping brushes, and I'm just going to use it to create a detailed outline around this area and just kind of show you how you could get different fine lines with your liner brush. One of the benefits of oil paint is that it takes a lot longer to dry as opposed to acrylic or watercolor paint, so it allows you more time to spend on blending and getting the results that you're trying to achieve. The next thing I'm going to do is apply a little bit of another color of paint. In this case, I'm putting some blue oil paint down, and I'm going to show you how to use the palette knife to mix colors on your palette. This helps protect your brushes from mixing the paint. It can actually wear down the edges or the sharp lines in your brushes if you use it to mix a lot. So if you use a palette knife to mix on your palette, that will help keep your brushes lifespan a little bit longer. You can also use the palette knife to paint directly onto a canvas, which we will talk about later on in another video. Just like with the brushes, when you are done with the palette knife, simply clean it off by wiping it with a paper towel. Next, we have a round brush, and a round brush is going to be a rounded gathering of bristles, and this also allows you to hold more of the painting medium and more of the pigment, and it's capable of making wide strokes if it's used side to side. It can make thick lines, it can make thinner lines if you press not as hard. So it's a very versatile brush. An interesting fact is that oil paint originated in ancient Afghanistan, dating back to the 7th century CE. The next brush is a fan favorite, and that is the fan brush. And you can use the fan brush to soften out edges or blend areas that have previously been painted, like I'm doing here, or you can dip the fan brush into the paint and use it to create unique textures and details on your canvas. This next brush is a filbert brush. It looks like a flat brush with a rounded edge, and it can be used to fill in larger areas, to blend, or to glaze. Oil paint revolutionized art, particularly during the Renaissance, and allowed artists to achieve a richness of color and texture that was previously unattainable with other paints like egg tempera. Now we have the cat tongue brush, which is like a flat brush with a very sharp pointed edge. And this is great to cover big areas, but also can provide sharp flat strokes and give you a rounded point depending on the angle that you hold it at, to make more detailed fine lines. Here I'm just kind of showing you what the effect is if you layer the brush strokes over an area that you've washed down with a color and continue to layer it in. This would be great for something like a tree line or a brush line if you were doing a landscape. And this last brush is called a mop brush. It is a round brush that has a wider tip to it. And it's great to achieve large areas of washes where you've watered down your color with painting medium. But here I'm just loading it up with painting medium and no pigment and using it to kind of mop out or wash away an area and then wipe it out with a paper towel. So now I'm going to show you how to clean your brushes. I've poured just some odorless paint thinner into a glass jar, and I'm going to take each of my brushes and wipe them off with a paper towel first, try to get as much pigment off of them as I can to begin with. Then I'm going to wipe them again on the paper towel until the paper towel is clean and no more pigment comes off of the brushes. So I'm just going to go back and forth with the turpentine and then back onto the paper towel. I'm going to do this with each of the brushes. And once I have done that, I'm going to go in and add some Dawn dish soap because that's going to help break down any residual oils that are on the bristles. You can leave the Dawn dish soap on the bristles to kind of condition them and let them sit, or you can then wash them out with water afterwards. Properly cleaning your brushes after each and every use will protect your investment. If you get good brushes, they can last a lifetime with proper maintenance and care. Please make sure that you're properly cleaning them each and every time that you use them. And then lastly, I'm going to clean the paint off of my palette, and I'm just going to use the palette knife to scrape off as much of the paint off of that glass palette, and then use a paper towel to wipe away any of the additional paint so that my surface is clean. Now I've got clean brushes and a clean palette. Don't forget to put the lids on all of your supplies. Thanks for watching. Hope you stay tuned.